Dr. Emma Sullivan stood at the viewport of the U.S. Endeavour, her eyes fixed on the crystal spires of Proxima B's capital city. The atmospheric processors they'd installed last year had done their job well, creating a breathable environment for the various species now calling this world home. 10 years of peace had led to moments like these. Humanity helping others reach for the stars. "Doctor, you should see this." Lieutenant Mark Anderson's voice crackled through her neural link. The young officer's tone carried an edge she'd never heard before. "We found something in Sector 7. It's not good." The transport pod took her to the outskirts of the Crystal City, where the magnificent structures gave way to industrial complexes. Anderson met her at the landing zone, his face pale despite the red sun's glow. He led her through a series of maintenance tunnels, each step taking them deeper into the planet's secrets. "We were running standard infrastructure scans," he explained, his hand shaking as he operated the security panel. The ground-penetrating radar showed anomalies. "We thought it might be underground resources," the Concordat failed to report. The door slid open, revealing a vast underground chamber. The stench hit her first. Death and decay, preserved in the cool underground air. As the lights activated in sequence, Emma's world changed forever. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, of bodies lay in ordered rows. The indigenous Proxima B citizens, their iridescent scales now dulled by death, had been systematically executed and catalogued. "This chamber is one of 12 we've found so far," Anderson said, his voice barely a whisper. "The dating system shows the most recent deposits were made just before our arrival last year." Emma moved through the chamber, her neural link recording everything. The bodies told a story that contradicted everything the Concordat had told Earth. These weren't victims of the environmental crisis that had supposedly decimated the native population. These were executions. Dr. Sullivan, her assistant, James Cooper, called from another section. "I found their records." He held up a data crystal, its surface glowing with stored information. "It's all here. Lists of resource extraction sites across 50 different worlds. They're not just doing this here." Emma's mind raced. The Concordat's generous acceptance of Earth into their alliance, their eagerness to have humans lead humanitarian missions, it had all been a screen. They'd been using Earth's reputation for compassion to gain access to new worlds, to make their victims lower their guards. "Send a priority message to Earth Command," she ordered, her voice steady despite the horror surrounding them. "Code Black. Full documentation package." And then the ground shook. Above them, the crystal spires began to resonate with a high-pitched tone that made their teeth ache. Emergency alerts flooded their neural links. Multiple Concordat warships just jumped into orbit, Anderson reported, his training taking over. "They're not responding to hails." "They know we found it," Emma realized. This was never meant to be a simple aid mission. Get everyone back to the ship. Now, the evacuation order went out, but Emma knew they were running out of time. As her team rushed to their transport, she made a final recording, compressing all their findings into a tight beam transmission. To Earth Command, she spoke as they ran. "The Concordat is not what we believed. The peace was a lie. They've been using us to find new worlds for their resource extraction program. The indigenous populations are being systematically eliminated. This is happening everywhere we've been sent to help. Do not trust any further communication from this mission. Implementing Protocol Omega." Sullivan out. The transport pod barely cleared the ground when the first Concordat weapon strike hit the Crystal City. The magnificent spires, symbol of a decade of cooperation, shattered like the peace they had represented. As the U.S. Endeavour prepared for emergency jump, Emma watched the world below burn. Her last thought, before the ship escaped into hyperspace, was of all the other worlds they'd helped over the years. How many more mass graves waited to be found? How many more species had they unknowingly helped the Concordat destroy? The age of peace was over. Humanity had been played for fools, their compassion used as a weapon against the innocent. Now, they would show the galaxy their other face, the one that had survived countless wars and emerged stronger, the face of human vengeance. The Galactic Concordat's council chamber gleamed under the light of 3 artificial suns, its crystalline walls reflecting the gathered diplomats from 100 worlds. Dr. Emma Sullivan stood before the High Council, her neural link projecting the damning evidence above the central platform. The mass graves of Proxima B rotated in high definition, each image a nail in the Concordat's coffin. "These atrocities cannot be ignored," she declared, her voice carrying through the vast chamber. Behind her, the Earth delegation sat united, 20 of humanity's finest diplomats and scientists. "We have similar evidence from 7 other worlds where we conducted aid missions." High Chancellor Vexthor, his blue-scaled face unreadable, leaned forward on his crystalline throne. "Dr. Sullivan, your passion for justice is admirable. But perhaps these findings have been misinterpreted by your young species." Misinterpreted? James Cooper stood, his hand shaking with barely controlled rage. "We found your processing centers, your death camps, the resource extraction operations built on the bones of." The chamber doors sealed with a sudden hiss. Emma's neural link screamed warnings as environmental alerts flooded her system. The air took on a greenish tinge, and the first screams began. "I must admit," Vexthor's voice now carried a different tone, almost amused, "your species has been incredibly useful. Your reputation for humanitarian aid opened so many doors. Doors that had been frustratingly closed to us." Lieutenant Anderson reached for his diplomatic sidearm, but his movements were already sluggish. The neural toxin worked fast, breaking down synaptic connections while leaving the brain intact long enough to experience everything. Emma fought through the growing paralysis, her augmented systems working overtime to filter the poison. "Why?" she managed to gasp. "We brought you nothing but peace." "Peace," the High Chancellor stood, walking down the steps as humans collapsed around him. "Peace is inefficient, Dr. Sullivan. Your species' dedication to it made you perfect pawns. Who would suspect the peaceful humans of helping us identify the most resource-rich worlds, of helping us map out civilization after civilization for processing?" James Cooper made it 3 steps toward the Chancellor before collapsing, his neural link broadcasting his final moments back to Earth on an emergency channel. Emma realized through her fading consciousness that this had been his plan all along, to ensure Earth would know the truth. "Your aid missions were perfect cover," Vexthor continued, standing over Emma as she fought to remain standing. "The environmental crisis on Proxima B, manufactured. The plague on Centauri Prime, engineered. And your species, so eager to help, provided us with detailed surveys of every world's defenses, resources, and weaknesses." Emma's augmented systems were failing. The toxin had been specifically designed to counter human biology, she realized. They'd been studying them all along, preparing for this moment. With the last of her strength, she activated her final protocol. The quantum entangled transmitter, surgically embedded near her heart, sent one last burst of data to Earth. Not just the evidence of the Concordat's crimes, but the chemical structure of the toxin killing them. Their deaths would give Earth the knowledge to fight back. "Your species' time among the stars is over," Vexthor said, his words growing distant as Emma's vision darkened. "The invasion fleet launches within the hour. Earth will be processed like all the others. Your people's reputation for peace will make them easy prey." Emma Sullivan smiled with her last breath, a sight that made the High Chancellor step back in sudden unease. "You really should have. Study our history better," she whispered. "Peace was always a choice." Her neural link broadcast her final moments. The image of the High Chancellor's confused expression, the chemical composition of the neural toxin, and one last message. Protocol Omega activated. Release the seals. As the last human diplomat died on the council floor, alarms began blaring throughout the Concordat capital. Deep within the supposedly peaceful human embassy, hidden systems whirred to life. The Concordat would soon learn that humanity's embassy had been more than just a diplomatic mission. It had been a Trojan horse, waiting for this very moment. The age of human vengeance was about to begin. Admiral Jack Morrison watched the holographic display as the Concordat's first wave approached Earth. His command center, buried 2 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, hummed with activity. The enemy had expected to find a peaceful planet, unprepared for war. Instead, they were about to hit humanity's wall. 6 minutes until they enter weapons range. Commander Sarah Hayes reported, her fingers dancing over the neural interface. Orbital defense grid showing green across all sectors. Stealth satellites in position. Morrison nodded, his weather-worn face illuminated by the strategic display. Send the signal to all commands. Operation Rising Storm is now active. The first sign that something was wrong came when the Concordat fleet lost contact with their forward scouts. The alien vessels, cloaked with their most advanced technology, simply vanished. No distress calls, no debris, nothing. Phase 1 complete, Hayes announced. Ghost Squadron reports all scout ships disabled and crews contained. The main fleet remains unaware. The Admiral allowed himself a grim smile. For 10 years, they'd studied every piece of Concordat technology they could get their hands on. Every goodwill visit to Earth had been a learning opportunity. Every cultural exchange had been a military intelligence operation. Launch the swarm, Morrison ordered. From hidden silos across Earth's surface, thousands of microsatellites emerge. Each one carried a weapon the Concordat had never seen. A device that turned their own shield technology against them. The alien fleet's first warning was their shields suddenly flaring blue, then imploding. The energy meant to protect their ships instead crushed inward, creating temporary singularities that tore their formation apart. Multiple enemy vessels breaking formation, Hayes called out. They're attempting to regroup at secondary coordinates. Morrison keyed his neural link to the fleet-wide channel. All ships, execute pattern delta. Show them what the peaceful humans can do. The Earth fleet emerged from its hiding places. Ships that had been masquerading as orbital debris revealed their true nature. Vessels hidden in plain sight among civilian stations powered up their weapons. The massive solar collection platforms that had been part of Earth's green energy initiative transformed into weapon platforms. Enemy command ship is broadcasting, a communications officer announced. They're demanding our surrender. The Admiral's laugh held no humor. Send them the recording of their council chamber. Let them watch what they did to our people. Then show them what we learned from their superior technology. Earth's counterattack was unlike anything the Concordat had trained for. Their battle doctrine relied on overwhelming force and superior technology. But humanity had spent a decade preparing for this fight, building their strategies around the enemy's weaknesses. Ghost Squadron stealth ships, enhanced with reversed-engineered Concordat tech, struck from multiple vectors. The swarm satellites created corridors of disabled ships, breaking up the alien formation, and Earth's main fleet, led by the EFS Retribution, drove straight through the enemy's heart. Admiral, Hayes called out, we're detecting multiple high-energy signatures. They're preparing to jump out. Not today, Morrison growled. Activate the gravity wells. Hidden platforms around Earth's orbital space activated, creating artificial gravity fields that made faster-than-light travel impossible. The trap was complete. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it ended, the mighty Concordat fleet lay in ruins, their crews contained in emergency stasis fields. prisoners who would provide even more intelligence for the coming war. "Send word to all Earth commands," Morrison ordered, looking at the holographic display of their victory. "The home system is secured. Begin Phase 2, the counter-invasion." As the orders went out, he thought about Dr. Sullivan and the other diplomats who had died bringing them this warning. Their sacrifice had given Earth the time it needed. The Concordat had thought they were watching a young, naive species. Instead, they had been watched, studied, and analyzed by a race that had never forgotten how to fight. "Sir," Hayes said softly, "Fleet Command reports ready for jump operations. Shall we show the galaxy what humanity can really do?" Morrison nodded, his eyes hard as steel. "Send the message to all commands. The peace is over. Now they learn why humans make the worst enemies. We don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure no one ever tries this again." The counterattack was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. Hidden beneath the red sands of Mars, the secret shipyards of Project Avalanche finally saw light. Commander Ashley Thompson walked through the massive construction bay, where hundreds of advanced warships sat ready. Each vessel incorporated stolen Concordat technology, enhanced by human innovation and 10 years of careful planning. "Status report on the Ghost Fleet," she called out to her executive officer, Lieutenant David Miller, as they approached the command ship EFS Phantasm. "All 40 vessels show combat ready," Miller responded, his neural link streaming data across his field of vision. "Quantum drives are spooled and stealth systems are operating at peak efficiency. The crews have been training in simulation for years. They're ready for real combat." The Phantasm's bridge hummed with activity as they entered. The ship, like all others in the Ghost Fleet, represented the perfect fusion of human ingenuity and alien technology. Its hull could bend light, its engines could manipulate gravity, and its weapons could strike from dimensions the Concordat had never thought to defend against. "Commander," the ship's AI, Prometheus, materialized at her station. "Deep space sensors are tracking multiple Concordat fleet movements. They're consolidating forces at their major strongholds." Ashley smiled grimly. "They think they know where to expect us. Time to prove them wrong." She opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Commander Thompson. For 10 years, we've hidden in the shadows, learning their weaknesses, perfecting our weapons. Today, we show the Concordat why humanity never stopped preparing for war." The Ghost Fleet lifted from its Mars berth in perfect formation. Each ship's quantum drive engaged, tearing holes in reality that the Concordat's sensors couldn't track. They had learned this trick from studying damaged alien tech, then improved it beyond recognition. Their first target was the Concordat's primary shipyard at Proxima Centauri. The alien forces had fortified the system heavily after Earth's initial counterattack, expecting a conventional assault. "Multiple enemy contacts," Miller reported as they emerged from quantum space. "Defense grid is active, but their sensors haven't detected us yet." Ashley nodded. "Deploy the Phantom drones. Let's show them our version of their technology." Swarms of unmanned craft launched from the Ghost Fleet. These weren't simple weapons platforms. They were the result of reverse engineering Concordat shield technology. Instead of blocking energy, they redirected it, creating false sensor images that made a single ship appear as an entire battle fleet. The Concordat's defense grid lit up as they detected what appeared to be thousands of human warships approaching from multiple vectors. Their commands became chaos as they tried to track threats that didn't exist, while the real Ghost Fleet slipped through their lines undetected. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega," Ashley ordered. "Remember your training. Hit hard, hit fast, and don't let them adapt." The Ghost Fleet struck like lightning. Their enhanced weapons, powered by quantum technology the Concordat had never mastered, tore through advanced shields like paper. The shipyard's defenses, designed to stop traditional attacks, proved useless against ships that could phase through solid matter. Enemy fleet is attempting to organize a counterattack, Miller reported. They're still firing at our phantom images. Launch second wave of drones, Ashley commanded. Let's add some more ghosts to their nightmares. The battle for Proxima Centauri lasted less than 20 minutes. When it ended, the Concordat's largest shipyard was under human control. Its defenders either disabled or fled in terror from an enemy they couldn't fight conventionally. Send word to Earth Command, Ashley ordered as she watched the cleanup operations begin. The Ghost Fleet's first mission is complete. We're ready to begin Phase 2 of the operation. She looked at the strategic display, where dozens of other Concordat military installations awaited their attention. The enemy had thought they knew humanity's capabilities, had judged them based on their peaceful overtures. Now they would learn the truth, that peace had been a choice, not a limitation. Plot course for the next target, she told Miller. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology or our tactics. It's the fact that we never, ever fight fair when the stakes are this high. The Ghost Fleet vanished once more into quantum space, leaving behind a message that would echo through the Concordat's communications. You should have left Earth alone. Major Ryan Cooper led his Special Forces team through the shadows of the Concordat's primary command center on Nexus Prime. The massive structure, once considered impregnable, had never been designed to stop humans using their own technology against them. Team 2 in position. Lieutenant Jessica Hayes whispered through their neural network. Bio-EMP charges are primed, waiting for your signal. Ryan checked his quantum scanner, a device that could see through walls by detecting variations in subatomic particles. The alien guards followed their usual patterns, never suspecting that their advanced security systems had been compromised weeks ago. Remember, he sub-vocalized to his team. Once the bio-EMPs detonate, we have exactly 3 minutes before their backup systems engage. Make every second count. The mission had taken months to plan. While the Ghost Fleet drew the Concordat's attention with large-scale attacks, Special Forces teams like Ryan struck at the heart of enemy command and control. They'd studied every weakness, every flaw in alien psychology and technology. All teams, execute, Ryan commanded. The bio-EMPs activated silently, their specialized energy fields targeting the neural implants that the Concordat used to control their technology. Within seconds, every piece of advanced equipment within the command center went dark. The alien guards, suddenly cut off from their enhanced senses and weapons, panicked. Move in, Ryan ordered. His team emerged from their hiding spots, their suits powered by human technology that the bio-EMPs couldn't touch. They moved like ghosts through the darkened corridors, their actions practiced to perfection. Lieutenant Hayes' team breached the main control room, while Ryan's group secured the data centers. The Concordat officers, used to relying on advanced technology, found themselves facing humans who had trained for years to fight in any condition. Primary target located, Hayes reported. Downloading their command codes now. You won't believe what we found, Major. Ryan finished securing his sector, watching as his team applied stasis fields to the captured aliens. Talk to me, Lieutenant. Sir, we've found their entire battle strategy. They've been fighting this war according to computer models and historical data. They never adapted because their systems told them human behavior was predictable. A harsh laugh escaped Ryan's throat. Predictable. They based their whole defense on fighting the way we fought 10 years ago. Show them how humans really wage war. Using the stolen command codes, Hayes initiated a signal that reached every Concordat ship and base in the sector. When they received it, their advanced AI systems, the pride of their military, began shutting down. Disabled by a virus the human hackers had spent years perfecting. All teams, begin Phase 2, Ryan ordered as emergency lights began to flash. "Let's show them why you never corner a species that invented guerrilla warfare." His forces moved through the command center with surgical precision, while the Concordat expected humans to fight like their other enemies, with direct attacks and predictable strategies. Ryan's teams demonstrated why Earth's military history was full of successful insurgencies and asymmetric warfare. They didn't just defeat the enemy, they demoralized them. Every captured officer saw how easily humans had turned their own technology against them. Every disabled system proved that humanity's primitive understanding of war was far more advanced than the Concordat had believed. "Command center secured," Hayes reported as the last resistance fell. "Enemy forces are in full retreat across the sector. They're calling us shadow warriors on their emergency channels." Ryan stood in the center of the conquered facility, watching as his teams prepared it for human occupation. "Send word to Fleet Command. Tell them the Nexus Prime Command Center is under our control, and we're ready to begin coordinating the next phase of attacks." He looked at the strategic display, now showing human ships moving freely through what had been secure Concordat space. The enemy had expected to fight a conventional war against a young, inexperienced species. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that had turned their own arrogance into a weapon. "Let them call us shadow warriors," Ryan said to his team. "By the time this war is over, they'll learn that humans don't just fight to win. We fight to make sure no one ever makes the same mistake again." The next phase of the war was about to begin, and the Concordat would learn why humanity's reputation for peace had been a choice, not a limitation. Captain Michelle Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the ESS Liberator, watching as her fleet approached the slave world of Epsilon 4. The planet's surface, once a thriving ecosystem, had been stripped to feed the Concordat's war machine. Its people, the crystal-winged Epsilon, now worked in massive mining operations under neural control. "Stealth systems holding," Lieutenant Mark Weber reported from his station. "Enemy defense grid remains unaware of our presence. Rescue pods are prepped and ready." Michelle nodded, her eyes fixed on the holographic display, showing the planet's labor camps. "Begin Operation Breaking Chain. First wave of liberation teams. You have green light." Hundreds of specially designed pods launched from the Liberation Fleet, each carrying a mix of human special forces and medical personnel. They had performed this operation on 3 other worlds already, but Epsilon 4 would be their largest rescue mission yet. "Command, this is Ground Team Alpha." The voice of Sergeant Lisa Chen crackled through the neural net. "We've breached the primary control center. Beginning neural suppressor deployment." The neural suppressors were a human innovation, designed to break the Concordat's control over their slave species without causing harm. As the devices activated, thousands of Epsilon workers suddenly found themselves free of their mental chains for the first time in years. "Multiple Concordat vessels detected," Weber called out. "They're responding to the control center breach." Michelle allowed herself a grim smile. "Spring the trap. Show them what happens when they face a species that actually cares about life." The Liberation Fleet emerged from stealth mode, but not as the Concordat expected. Instead of attacking, each human ship activated their shield projectors, creating a massive energy barrier around the labor camps. The enemy's weapons, designed to obliterate resistance, couldn't fire without risking their own slave workforce. "Ground Team Beta reporting success," another voice called. "Medical teams are moving in. We've got thousands of freed workers here, Captain. They're helping us free the others." That was the part the Concordat had never expected. Every world they'd enslaved, every species they tried to break, became instant allies the moment their neural controls failed. The Epsilon, with their natural ability to manipulate crystal technology, proved especially effective at disrupting their former master systems. "Enemy fleet is falling back," Weber announced. They're requesting reinforcements, but the nearest support is 3 hours out. They'll never make it in time, Michelle replied. She opened a channel to all ground teams. This is Captain Rodriguez. You have 2 hours to complete the evacuation. Every freed worker, every piece of evidence of their crimes. I want it all. The liberation of Epsilon 4 became a model for future operations. Human forces, rather than simply destroying Concordat infrastructure, focused on saving lives and gathering allies. Each freed species brought new abilities, new technologies, and most importantly, new reasons for others to join the human cause. Captain, Weber called out as the last transport ships lifted off. The freed Epsilon Council is requesting to speak with you. The holographic display showed a group of the crystal-winged beings, their natural bioluminescence finally shining again after years of suppression. Their speaker, a tall figure named Crystallarch, bowed deeply. The Epsilon people thank you. Crystallarch's translated voice rang clear. We offer our forces to your cause. The Concordat will learn that their greatest mistake was not just attacking Earth, it was believing they could break the spirit of any free species. Michelle returned the bow. Welcome to the Alliance, Crystallarch. Together, we'll ensure no other world suffers as yours did. As the Liberation Fleet prepared to jump to their next target, Michelle reviewed the strategic display. Each freed world added more strength to the human-led alliance. The Concordat had built their empire on breaking others. Humanity would destroy it by setting them free. Plot course for the next target, she ordered, and send word to Earth Command. Tell them the liberation strategy is working better than we hoped. The Concordat didn't just make an enemy of humanity. They've united every species they ever tried to enslave against them. The EFS Liberator led its fleet into jump space, leaving behind a free world and carrying with it the hope of countless others. The war had become more than just human vengeance. It had become a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. Admiral Jack Morrison stood before the War Council on Earth, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of the Concordat homeworld, Nexus Prime. The planet's defense grid lay in ruins, its orbital stations under human control. Victory was within grasp, but the cost had become more complex than anyone had imagined. Our intelligence officer, Brian Walker, has uncovered something disturbing, Morrison announced, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision before them. Show them what we found. Walker stepped forward, his neural link projecting images above the council table. These are scans from the inner districts of their capital city. We're looking at roughly 20 million civilian Concordat, including 6 million children. They're not soldiers or leaders. They're families who never knew what their government was doing. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Commander Ashley Thompson, fresh from her Ghost Fleet victory, spoke first. How many of our own civilians did they consider before attacking Earth? That's not the whole story, Walker continued, bringing up new data streams. We've discovered evidence that the Concordat High Command was being manipulated. Look at these neural patterns in their leaders. The display showed brain scans of captured Concordat officials, their neural architecture riddled with artificial modifications. Someone, or something, has been programming their leadership for generations. The average Concordat citizen had no more choice in this war than their slaves did. Admiral Morrison watched the council's reactions. The desire for vengeance warred with humanity's inherent compassion, the very quality the Concordat had once tried to exploit. There's more, Walker added, his voice grim. We've detected an energy signature deep beneath their capital. It's like nothing we've ever seen, but it's growing stronger. Whatever was controlling their leaders left behind a failsafe. A doomsday weapon, Morrison concluded, set to activate if they lost control of their empire. We have less than 48 hours before it reaches critical mass. The council chamber fell silent. Captain Michelle Rodriguez, who had led the liberation fleets, finally spoke. If we evacuate their civilians, we'll lose our chance to secure their weapon research. The same weapons they planned to use on Earth. And if we don't, Thompson countered, we become everything we've been fighting against. Morrison stepped back to the central display. I've already made my decision. I'm here to inform the Council, not ask permission. He keyed his neural link, bringing up battle plans. We're launching Operation Final Mercy. All ships, all resources, focused on one goal, saving everyone we can and stopping that weapon. The next 48 hours became legend in human history. The combined fleets of Earth, led by Morrison himself, launched the largest rescue operation ever attempted. Ghost ships slipped through defense grids carrying evacuation teams. Liberation fleets, originally designed to free slaves, now worked to save their former masters. Walker led a special operations team into the heart of the Concordat capital, racing against time to understand and disable the doomsday device. They found something no one expected. An ancient machine intelligence that had been manipulating the Concordat for centuries, using them as pawns in a game of galactic conquest. Admiral, Walker's voice crackled through the neural net as the clock ticked down. We can't shut it down conventionally. The only way to stop it is to overload their entire power grid, but that would destroy their climate control systems. The planet would become uninhabitable. Morrison looked at the evacuation numbers. 15 million saved, with more ships arriving every minute. Not enough time to save everyone, but every life mattered. Can we buy more time? Yes, Walker replied. But someone has to stay behind to manually maintain the containment field. It would be a one-way trip. The Admiral didn't hesitate. Get your team out. I'm coming down. As the final evacuation ships lifted off, carrying the last of the Concordat civilians to safety, Admiral Morrison made his way through the ancient facility. The price of peace would be high, but it would be paid with sacrifice, not vengeance. The galaxy would remember this day not as the end of a war, but as the moment humanity proved that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to save even those who once called themselves enemy. The combined fleet hung in formation around Nexus Prime, their weapons silent, as Admiral Morrison's last message echoed through the neural network. Commander Ashley Thompson stood on the bridge of the EFS Phantasm, watching the planet's surface through enhanced sensors as power fluctuations rippled across the continental defense grid. 15 minutes until critical overload, Lieutenant Miller reported, his voice tight with tension. The Admiral's containment protocols are holding, but the strain on the systems is reaching breaking point. Captain Michelle Rodriguez's voice cut through the command channel. Ghost Team Alpha has located a secondary control node. We might have a way to redirect the energy surge, but we'll need every ship in the fleet to pull this off. Ashley's mind raced through the calculations. They had saved most of the civilian population, but losing the planet would still mean the death of millions who couldn't be evacuated in time. More importantly, it would mean losing Morrison. All ships, this is Commander Thompson. Form up on my position. We're going to try something that's either brilliant or insane. She turned to her bridge crew. Configure all shield generators for full power transfer. We're going to create an artificial containment field around the entire planet. The fleet moved with precision born from years of combat. 300 ships, including vessels from every liberated species, arranged themselves in a complex geometric pattern around Nexus Prime. Each one began channeling their shield energy into a massive coordinated field. Energy spike detected, Miller called out. The doomsday device is beginning its final sequence. Deep below the surface, Admiral Morrison worked at ancient controls, his neural link connected directly to the failing containment systems. Thompson, whatever you're planning, do it fast. I can't hold this much longer. Admiral, Ashley responded, her voice strong despite the strain. You taught us that humanity's greatest strength was never our weapons or technology. It was our ability to turn enemies into allies. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, route emergency power to shield harmonics. Show them what unity really means. The sky above Nexus Prime lit up as hundreds of ships generated a containment field, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human shield technology merged with crystal-winged epsilon energy manipulation, enhanced by the unique abilities of a dozen other species. Energy surge approaching critical mass, Miller reported. The fleet's shields are starting to buckle. Just then, Brian Walker's voice cut through the chaos. I found it. The machine's core programming. It was never about destruction. It was a test, waiting for a species strong enough to choose mercy over vengeance. The ancient machine's energy signature changed, its destructive power transforming into something else. The combined shield network began to glow with new purpose, not containing destruction but channeling transformation. All ships, hold position, Ashley ordered, as the energy wave washed over them. When it cleared, Nexus Prime remained intact, but changed. The ancient technology had integrated with their shield network, creating something entirely new. Admiral Morrison's voice, strong and clear, came through the neural net. Thompson, Rodriguez, get down here. You need to see this. In the heart of the ancient facility, they found Morrison standing before a holographic interface, unlike anything they'd seen before. The machine had left them a message, written in every language of the galaxy. You have passed the test that 1,000 species failed. Power without compassion leads only to destruction. You are ready for what comes next. The days that followed saw the birth of something new. The Concordat, once built on dominance and fear, was transformed into an alliance of equals. Human ingenuity, combined with the strengths of every species they had liberated, created a new form of galactic civilization. Admiral Morrison, standing before the first assembly of the new alliance, summed up their journey. We came seeking vengeance, but found something greater. The understanding that true power lies not in the ability to destroy our enemies, but in the courage to transform them into friends. The war was over, but humanity's real journey was just beginning. The stars stretched out before them, full of new challenges and opportunities, and this time they would face them together, not as conquerors or victims, but as guardians of a peace built on understanding and unity. The galaxy would remember this not as the end of a war, but as the beginning of a new era, one where the combined strength of every species created something greater than any could have achieved alone.